AITA for breaking up with my boyfriend after overhearing what he really thinks about me. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post here. My life was stable, quiet, normal in the best way. Now I'm sitting alone in a cafe, replaying a conversation I was never meant to hear, and wondering if walking away without a word makes me the asshole. I'm a woman in my mid-20s. I live alone in a small but comfortable apartment that I worked hard for. I pay my bills on time. I have a steady job I don't hate, and I've always been proud of the fact that I don't need anyone to survive. I want people in my life, but I've never needed to cling to them. That's important context, I think. I met my boyfriend a little over a year ago through mutual friends. He was charming in a quiet way, not flashy or loud. The kind of guy who listens when you talk and remembers small details. On our first few dates, he asked me thoughtful questions about my work, my family, what I wanted out of life. I remember going home after our third date and thinking, this feels easy.
And it was.
At first, we fell into a routine that felt healthy. We didn't rush anything, but we also didn't play games. We saw each other a few times a week, texted regularly without it feeling forced, and slowly integrated into each other's lives. He came over to my apartment more often than I went to his, mostly because his place was shared and chaotic while mine was calm. I didn't mind. I liked cooking for him, liked the way he'd sit at my kitchen counter and talk while I chopped vegetables. He used to thank me for those things. He noticed the effort. Somewhere along the way, that changed. It wasn't sudden. That's why I didn't catch it at first. His texts got shorter. Plans became less intentional. He'd say things like, whatever you want, or I'm fine either way, which doesn't sound bad until you realize you're the only one making decisions. The one checking schedules. The one suggesting dates instead of defaulting to the couch. I told myself it was normal. Relationships settle. The honeymoon phase ends. People get comfortable. I've always believed that love isn't about constant excitement. It's about consistency. So when he stopped planning things, I stepped in. When he forgot small things, I reminded him. When he seemed distant, I leaned closer. That's just who I am. I like giving effort. I like showing up. I don't keep score, and I never have. If I care about someone, I show it. Looking back, I wonder if that's where everything went wrong. A few months ago, he told me he was burned out from work. He hated his job, felt stuck, unappreciated. I listened. I supported him. When he said he was thinking about quitting to take a break and reset, I didn't panic. I told him I understood how exhausting it can be to feel trapped somewhere you hate. But I was clear about one thing. Quitting was fine if he treated it like a temporary reset. I told him I could emotionally support him, but I wasn't going to financially carry him, and I needed him to actively look for something new. He agreed. Repeatedly. He promised it wouldn't turn into him just floating. At first, it seemed okay. He quit, slept a lot, said he was decompressing. I gave him space. I still worked full-time, still paid my bills, still cooked dinners, and let him stay over most nights. I didn't resent it. I thought we were a team. Over time, though, the job searching slowed. Then stopped. If I brought it up, he'd sigh or say he was getting to it. I tried not to nag. I reminded myself that healing takes time. I compensated in other ways. I encouraged him.
Cooked more.
Picked up groceries when he forgot. Paid for dates without making a big deal out of it. I told myself this was temporary, that relationships have seasons where one person carries a little more. What I didn't realize was how all of this looked from his perspective. Yesterday, I took a half day at work and I decided to head home early and relax. I didn't text him because I didn't think I needed to. It was my apartment. He'd be there, probably sleeping or watching something. When I unlocked the door, I heard voices. At first, I thought it was the TV. Then I recognized his voice, coming from the spare room we sometimes used as an office. He was on a call with one of his friends. I was about to announce myself, but then I heard my name. I stopped. I didn't move closer. I didn't press my ear to the door. I just stood there, keys still in my hand, listening without meaning to. He was laughing. He said my name again, followed by, "She's such a pushover." My stomach dropped, but I still didn't leave. I think part of me expected him to say something kind right after. Like he was joking. Like context would save it. It didn't. He told his friend that I was way more into him than he was into me. That I was desperate. That I tried too hard. He said that since he quit his job, I'd been hovering, doing things for him, and that it was obvious I was scared of losing him. Then came the sentence I can't stop hearing. He said, honestly, she's so attached that even if I cheated, she'd probably still cling to me. He laughed again. I don't remember all the words after that. I remember my ears ringing. I remember feeling oddly calm, like my body shut down before my emotions could catch up. I didn't confront him. I didn't slam a door. I didn't cry. I turned around, unlocked the door again, and left. I walked until my legs felt heavy, then sat down in the first cafe I saw. I ordered a drink I didn't even want, and sat by the window, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed once, probably him, realizing I'd been there, but I didn't check it. I keep replaying everything. Not just what he said, but every moment leading up to it. Every effort I thought was love. Every excuse I made for him. I'm sitting here, calm on the outside, absolutely shattered underneath, and I don't know what comes next. I stayed at the cafe longer than I needed to. Long enough for the initial shock to wear off and be replaced by something colder and more deliberate. I thought about my apartment, my space, my peace, and I realized something quietly, almost gently. I didn't owe him a dramatic confrontation. I didn't owe him tears or explanations or a chance to twist the narrative. I owed myself clarity. So, I went home. When I opened the door this time, he was sprawled on the couch like nothing had happened, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, surprised. "Oh, hey," he said. "You're home early." I set my bag down slowly. My voice came out even, almost casual. "Yeah." I realized we need some groceries for dinner. He barely looked up again. "Can it wait? We've got stuff in the fridge." I felt something tighten in my chest. "I checked earlier," I said. "There's nothing usable." He shrugged. "We can order in later." Something snapped then. "No," I said. "You're going to go to the store." He laughed, like I'd told a joke.
Why?
"You're the one who wanted dinner." That's when I raised my voice. Not screaming, but sharp enough that even I didn't recognize it. "Because you are not doing anything," I said. "You don't have a job. You're home all day. So either you go get the groceries right now, or you make dinner yourself." "I'm not doing both." He stared at me. I don't think he'd ever seen me like that before. I was usually accommodating.
Calm.
Flexible. "Wow," he said slowly. "What's your problem?" I didn't answer. I just held his gaze. After a moment, he stood up with an irritated sigh, grabbed his jacket, and muttered something under his breath as he headed out the door. The second it closed behind him, my body moved before my mind could second-guess it. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled out the suitcase he kept there. As I dragged it out, something fell from the side pocket. My spare key. The one I'd given him early in the relationship, back when trust felt natural and unremarkable. I picked it up and stared at it for a second. Then I slipped it into my pocket. I packed quickly. By the time I heard the door unlock again, everything was ready. He walked in with the grocery bag and stopped short when he saw the suitcase by the door. "What's that?" he asked. I took the bag from his hand and looked inside. "You forgot the coffee I asked for." He frowned. "You didn't ask for her." "I did," I said. "Go get it." He scoffed. "Are you serious right now?" I met his eyes. Yes. Something in my expression must have landed, because he grabbed his wallet without another word and left. This time, I didn't waste a second. I dragged his luggage out and lined it up neatly beside the door. Then I locked it. When he came back with the coffee, he froze. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, looking at his bags. I took the cup from his hand calmly. "I heard you," I said. He blinked. "Heard what?" "What you said about me." I continued. "About how I'm a pushover. Desperate. How you think I'd stay even if you cheated." His face drained of color. You weren't supposed to." "I'm not a pushover," I said quietly. "And I'm done." Before he could respond, before he could scramble for excuses or apologies or manipulation, I closed the door. I could hear him talking through it, knocking, saying my name, telling me I misunderstood, that he was joking, that I was overreacting. I didn't open it. Eventually, the hallway went quiet. The silence afterward felt clean. The next few weeks were strange in the way grief sometimes is. I fell back into my old rhythms. Work,
Gym,
grocery shopping for one, quiet evenings with books or music. It wasn't lonely, just different. Lighter. I didn't miss him the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of who I thought he was, not the person he'd shown himself to be. About 2 months later, I went to a friend's birthday party. Small gathering. Familiar faces. I almost didn't go, but something told me I should. That's where I saw Adam. We'd gone to college together. Same major, different circles. We'd studied in the same library, shared a few classes, exchanged polite hellos over the years. I always remembered him as kind, quiet. We started talking casually. About work.
about how weird it felt to be adults now.
Nothing personal, nothing heavy. Then, mid-conversation, he stopped. He looked at me for a moment, almost like he was deciding something. "I don't know why I'm saying this now," he said, "but I always had a crush on you." I laughed softly, surprised. "You did?" He nodded. "Every time I tried to say something, I'd look at you and just lose my words." Something warm settled in my chest. Not excitement. Not infatuation. Just warmth. We talked more after that. Slowly. Honestly. No pressure. And when he asked me out a week later, I said yes. I don't know what that means for the judgment here. All I know is that I walked away when I finally heard the truth, and my life didn't fall apart. So, AITA? Things with Adam settled into a rhythm so naturally that it almost startled me. There was no dramatic shift, no moment where I thought, this is it, this is something big.
It was quieter than that.
Safer. We went on dates, simple ones. Coffee after work. Walks where we talked about nothing important and everything that mattered. Dinner where we cooked together instead of one person doing all the work while the other sat back. I noticed how present he was. When I spoke, he listened, not in the performative way my ex used to, but genuinely. He remembered things without me having to repeat them. When I had a rough day, he didn't try to fix me or dismiss it. He just stayed. Sometimes that meant distracting me with bad jokes. Sometimes it meant sitting in silence with me. He made me feel chosen. One night, while we were cleaning up after dinner, I told him about my ex. Not every detail, but enough. The job situation. The overheard conversation. How it ended. He listened quietly, jaw tight. "Your ex was a moron," he said finally. "He didn't lose you because you cared too much. He lost you because he didn't care enough." Then he shook his head slightly. "Anyone who thinks care is desperation doesn't deserve either." I felt something loosen in my chest. Every now and then, my past tried to intrude. My ex started calling again. At first from his old number, then from unfamiliar ones. Sometimes it was silence on the line. Sometimes it was long apology messages from duplicate accounts I didn't bother opening. I never responded. I blocked. I deleted. I refused to let his voice back into my life. One Saturday afternoon, I was walking through the park near my apartment. It was the kind of sunny day that makes everything feel lighter. I had just grabbed a coffee and was heading toward a quiet bench when I saw him, my ex. He froze the moment our eyes met. There was a brief flicker of hope in his expression, the same way someone does when they think they've been given a second chance. I took a steadying breath and continued walking toward him. Adam was just behind me. I slowed slightly and waited until my ex noticed Adam. Recognition dawned instantly. The nervous, almost pleading look disappeared, replaced by confusion. "I wanted to talk to you," my ex said, taking a step forward, voice tentative. I shook my head, calm but firm. "There's nothing left to talk about. I'm with Adam now."
He faltered. "Adam."
"Yes," I said. "The one who actually treats me with respect, who values me, and who I choose to be with." That's not negotiable. He swallowed hard. His lips pressed together, and for a moment, I could see he was trying to form the words that would undo months of closure. I didn't give him the chance. I've said everything I needed to say when I left. I continued. You're not someone I want back in my life. Trying to talk to me now doesn't change that. He opened his mouth, stammering, but I held up a hand. No, I said. Don't. Just walk away. For a few tense seconds, he hesitated, as if he expected me to chase him or beg him to stay. I didn't. Adam stayed by my side, quietly, his presence grounding me. Finally, my ex gave a resigned nod, turned and walked away. I felt a strange mixture of relief and finality, like closing a book I'd been reading far too long. The rest of that day was quiet but filled with comfort. We went home, cooked dinner together, and laughed over a silly movie. 7 months passed. Adam started staying over more often. He never assumed.
He always asked.
He helped with cooking without being prompted. If I reached for something, he noticed. If I was tired, he told me to sit and rest. One evening, I was at Adam's place. He stepped out to buy something quickly and left his phone on the table. I wasn't paying attention until a notification lit up the screen. Are you with her right now? My stomach dropped before my brain could catch up. Without thinking, and I hate admitting this, I picked up the phone. Adam had told me his password before, casually, the way you do when you have nothing to hide. Still, I hesitated for only a second before unlocking it. I think my past pushed me. Old fears. I opened the chat, and everything I expected to hurt didn't. The messages were from his friends. He had canceled plans with them earlier, saying he couldn't make it. They teased him, asked if it was because of me, if he was with me right now. Someone suggested they could reschedule. Scrolling up, I saw it, messages where he talked about me. How much he liked me. How beautiful he thought I was. How long he'd wanted to tell me how he felt back in college, and how happy he was that he finally had. My chest felt tight for an entirely different reason this time. That's when he walked back in. He stopped short when he saw me holding his phone. I froze. I'm so sorry, I said immediately, words tumbling over each other. I shouldn't have. I panicked and I'm really sorry. He looked at me for a moment, then sighed softly and set the bag down. It's okay, he said. I blinked. It is. He nodded. I gave you the password, he said gently. And I know you weren't trying to control me. You were just scared because of what you've been through. I felt tears sting my eyes, completely unexpected. I don't want to be that person, I whispered.
You're not, he said gently.
You're someone who is hurt. I hugged him then. Things continued after that. Not perfectly, not without moments of vulnerability, but honestly. And that made all the difference. This time, the rhythm felt mutual. And for the first time in a long time, effort didn't feel like desperation. It felt like love. Writing all of this out has been strange. Cathartic, but strange. When I first sat in that cafe months ago, I felt like my entire sense of reality had cracked open. Now, looking back, I can see the situation more clearly, not just what he did, but what I accepted for far too long. After everything that happened, I didn't feel the need to confront my ex again. I didn't want closure from him. I already had it. Closure came the moment I realized that someone who truly values you would never speak about you that way, not in anger, not in humor, not in private. I used to think strength in a relationship meant enduring, being patient, giving more when things felt uneven. What I learned instead is that strength also means knowing when to stop pouring into something that's quietly draining you dry. With Adam, things didn't become perfect. That's not real life. But they became balanced. We talk when something feels off. We don't assume. We don't belittle. Effort goes both ways without keeping score. And most importantly, I don't feel like I have to shrink or overcompensate to be wanted. If there's one thing I hope anyone reading this takes away, it's this. Someone being calm does not mean they're weak. And someone walking away quietly is often the strongest person in the room. So, AITA? I don't think I am. I think I finally listened, not to what he said to others, but to what my discomfort had been trying to tell me all along.